Hello, welcome to this first video about introduction to English language teaching. I will try to make this quick. Alright, let's start. Let's start with the basics. SLA theories. What even is SLA? SLA stands for Second Language Acquisition. What does that mean? So, everyone has a first language. Well, not everyone. Some people don't have a first language, but those are very, very rare cases, and we're not talking about that right now. I'm trying to stay on topic. But, yeah, SLA, Second Language Acquisition, is how you acquire your second language. I, for one, have English as my second language, and there are many theories about how different people acquire different languages. Is it all just in the brain? Is it all in the brain? Is it how you socialize? How does it happen? So yeah, the different theories go into how we learn. Is it just through imitation? Is it through social practices? Is it just a learning process that's built within our brain? Is it through interacting with other languages? Or is it by talking? Is it just because we're social creatures? No one truly knows, but there's a lot of different theories, like the ones I mentioned before. I'm not going to get too into it right now because we don't have a lot of time, but that's essentially what the theories are about. Let's see, some user just sent a question. What is learner autonomy? That's a great question. Learner autonomy is basically a learner's ability to learn, to control their own education. What do you mean by that? Well, let's say, for example, like me. I'm currently learning Spanish, believe it or not. Hola, me llamo Maria. I'm not great at it. But an example of learner autonomy is when I take charge of my own Spanish. No one's forcing me to do the Spanish. That's why it's an example of learner autonomy. You are choosing to, you are actively seeking it, which I think is really important because you're not going to learn anything if you don't, take some initiative. And, yeah. So by going on Duolingo every single day, I am actively taking charge of my own learning process and continuing it. Another user sent in a question. What are learning strategies? That's a great question. So there's many different strategies for learning. You can learn through drills, you can learn through imitating, and you can also learn through, social activities, like gathering groups, talking together. How do you learn, the most? It really depends on, the kind of person you are. Some people learn through just watching movies. Some people think it's best to just, throw themselves into a conversation. I myself am too shy to, go up to a Spanish person and be like, hola, mi llamo Maria. No. I tried, but they laugh. We don't have to get into that. But yeah, that's essentially what learning strategies are. You can have different strategies for your learning. You can find what you think is the most important one. Well, not most important. You can choose what you think fits best with you or your students. Yeah. Let's see. Totally not a question from your teacher. Fake user 1187 just sent. What are some traditional ELT methods? That's a great question. What are ELT methods? Well, that's English language teaching lessons. So there's many different ones that we have talked about. Some of my favorite ones are the silent one, because essentially it's about giving the students an opportunity to take initiative without the teacher saying anything, which I think is so fascinating. Then there are also methods, more direct methods, where you directly teach the children new languages, new words and phrases through pictures, through talking to them. There's also grammar. There's stuff like the audiolingual method, where you use audio, where you use stuff maybe stories, where you maybe repeat words and they have to repeat them, those sort of things. Then there's Suggestipedia, Desuggestipedia, and community language learning and total physique response. Community language learning is absolutely essential, I feel where you learn your language through community. I feel that's the most important thing about it. I feel that's largely what was missing in my Danish. Alright guys, we're almost at the end of our video, but we do have time for one more question, and that is from totally not your professor 32. And the question is, what do you think the main goals of language teaching are? That is a great question. What I think are the main goals for language teaching is to effectively give people, students, kids, whatever, to give them the tools to communicate better and to understand better. Like the main point of learning a new language is to be able to communicate better, is to be able to consume media better. You know, it's to be able to like read maybe different literature. Maybe you're super into Japan and you like one day you want to move there, you've been into anime and you just like you really want to learn Japanese. And that's totally cool. Like maybe you just want to do it to like read. Maybe you want to like learn Spanish because you're going to Spain. And that's super cool. Like everyone who's trying to learn a language, that's so cool. Cuz like languages are our way to communicate with each other. And I think like the greatest barrier we have are like language barriers, because a lot of times like people don't manage to communicate. Even if we are speaking the same language, a lot of times you don't know how to communicate properly, which is why it's so important to teach people how to communicate. And I feel like that's the most important part of teaching a language, is to teach them how to use it in a way where they feel like they are able to communicate effectively, in a way where they like feel like they're sort of able to understand what is going on. You know, you don't want to just throw somebody into the pool and like just be like, oh yeah, how do you bend this word? How do you fucking pay this? What is the noun for this? Like, yeah, but don't get me wrong. It's super important to learn grammar and how to use the language properly. But first and foremost, I think it's important to like throw everybody into whichever culture you're looking into, like forcing them to watch the media, forcing them to read stories from it, like, or just putting them on Duolingo, or just like showing them an apple and asking them, what is this? You know, to connect it to the stuff they already know. I feel like, yeah, teaching second languages, main goal, teach them how to communicate, teach them how to observe. Yeah, I think that will be it for today's video. Thank you so much for your questions. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.